What up everybody, Search Pro here. Today I'm back for another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. And for today's deck profile, I'm going to be bringing you Burn. Not Chain Burn, because let's be honest, can you even call it Chain Burn when the condition of the deck is at 1? I don't think so. Anyways, this deck is a little bit different from most Burn decks, as you can probably tell right away. It's got Trickstars, it's got Sky Strikers, and it's got the addition of Morphing Jar and Card Destruction now that the list has changed, and both of them are off of it. Well, not off of it, but they're now limited as opposed to being forbidden. Anyways, without further ado, so first off, we're playing 3 copies of Trickstar Candina. It's the Stratos of the deck, as you would say. You normal summon, add a Trickstar card from your deck to your hand, and each time your opponent activates a spell or trap, inflict 200 damage to him, which obviously we're playing Burn. Every little bit of damage counts. And for our other Trickstar card, or Trickstar monster, we play 3 of Licorice. It has the quick effect of being able to reveal herself in her hand, and target a Trickstar you control, bounce the Trickstar you control, and special summon the Licorice. So they're like tagging out. And each time a card is added to your opponent's hand, inflict 200 damage to them for each. So that means anytime they search, anytime they draw, every single time, that's 200 points. Licorice is obviously the best. Honestly, even just a normal summon is good on her. Like just a normal summon her and sit on her, because, like I said, unless they're just going to summon something over them, they're definitely going to be searching a lot of cards or drawing lots of cards. So that's just how modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays. Next up, we play 1 copy of Morphing Jar. It's honestly a really good set. Also, if you already have a Licorice on field, then when its effect activates, you'll be inflicting 1,000 damage to them, which is a neat little interaction. Also, since you won't have a hand, you're pretty much just drawing 5 free cards, because most likely when you're playing this deck, you're just not gonna have anything, which is pretty cool. Next up, we play 3 copies of Absolute King Backjack. You know, I play him in every Burn deck I've ever run because searchable traps are just amazing. And I guess technically it's like a semi-search, because it's like duality effect of well, basically, if he's sent to the graveyard, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, or arrange them in any order, and then he has the quick effect. During your opponent's turn, you can banish him from the graveyard and excavate the top card of your deck. If it's a trap, set it. If not, excavate it. It has to be a normal trap, by the way, which is important to note. Which means that every trap in our deck will be searchable, unless we're going into our side deck. But, I mean, what are you going to do about that? But every other trap in the deck is searchable because of Absolute King Backjack, so obviously I have to play him at 3. He's an amazing secondary Stratos for the deck, I guess, for the Burn deck. And then we have 3 Sky Striker Engage. Everyone knows how good this card is, being able to add a Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, and then if you have 3 or more spells, getting to also draw a card. Oh my god. It's so good. Playing it at 3 is essential for the deck if you're playing the little mini Sky Striker engine I have. And then of course we play 1 copy of Drones. Now I really wish I had come up with this deck before Drones went to 1, because otherwise this deck would be a lot more interesting. I would have probably had to taken out Morphing Jar and Card Destruction so that I could play 3 Drones, but it definitely would have been a worthwhile trade. When it Drones allows you to special summon a Sky Striker token to your field if you control no monsters in your main monster zones. And that's the condition for all Sky Striker spells, I do believe, that you can't have monsters in your main monster zone to activate their effect, which is fine, because that just means that we'll be able to link away, go into our extra monster zone, where, I mean, we're never really going to control more than 1 extra deck monster at a time, theoretically, but if you do, you can always just link again. So it's very easy to make sure that condition is met. And then it's 3 spells in the graveyard effect doesn't make any sense to me. If it had been, if you have 3 spells in your graveyard, you can summon 2 instead, I would have been like, oh, that's worthwhile. But no, it only gives it 1500 attack, which doesn't matter at all. because you're literally never going to use it in battle, only using it for link material, and the fact that it's a searchable card. Don't really understand the hit to 1, other than the fact that Sky Strikers are way too OP. Should have hit engage. It would have made way more sense. Anyways, then we play 1 copy of Jamming Wave and 1 copy of Afterburner. Afterburner is monster on the field, bye-bye, with 3 spells in the graveyard, spell or trap to the graveyard, bye-bye. And Jamming Waves is the opposite. You get to target a spell, trap. It has to be set with Jamming Waves, I guess. Target a set, spell, or trap on the field and destroy it. And if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can destroy a monster on the field as well. Both of them are really good because they're searchable, which means you have a searchable out to lots of situations. You really don't want to see Jamming Waves, I guess. At least not too much, unless you kind of know what you're playing against and you know that you can afford to take out their back row, because I don't know if people are still playing Waking Dragons actually, but either way, these are both good cards because they're searchable. Amazing stuff. Then we play 2 copies of Pot of Desires. It's one of 4 draw cards that we have. We have Morphing Jar, 2 Pot of Desires, and then 1 Card Destruction. It just says each player discards their entire hand and draws the same number that they discarded. Nothing else really to say. It's just an amazing card. Same with Monster Reborn, being able to just revive back a monster, especially Link monsters, because then you can use them to link up into something even bigger, which is pretty cool. For our burn cards, we play 1 copy of Chain Strike. Activate only as Chain Link 2 or higher, and then you can inflict 400 damage to your opponent times the Chain Link number of this card. Now, you can't activate it if there's multiple cards in the same chain. So it's a really good card, and obviously you really want to try and save it for when you can get it as Chain Link 5 or higher, because then you're dealing 2,000 damage or more, which is a quarter of their life points, which is why this card is so good, because it literally just takes off 25% of their life at minimum, you know, like if you're playing the card right. Then moving on for our traps, we play 3 Secret Blast. It inflicts 300 damage to your opponent for each card they control, but if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. Then you have 3 copies of Secret Barrel. It inflicts 200 damage for each card in their hand and that they control. Last but not least, Just Desserts deals 500 for each monster they control. And in Link format, that means you have a maximum of 3,500 if you're going against Gokis. And then moving on to the rest of our normal traps, we play 3 Reincarnation. It banishes your opponent's hands, and then they draw the same number of cards that they had. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon a Trickstar from your graveyard, which is pretty cool. Obviously, this is a 3 of it's searchable by Candina, but we really want to get it in our hand just by having it in our hand, because we really, like, it's sort of a situation where you're going to try and get 2 Trickstar cards in your hand, either Candina and a Reincarnation, or Candina and your Licorice. So that way you can at least use Candina to try and search out the other one, which is pretty cool. I guess you could have a situation where you have a Licorice and a Reincarnation, which isn't bad. Just the fact that you don't get a search is kind of lame. And then we play 3 Threatening Roar, because why let your opponent attack? 2 Ojama Trio, I don't like playing it at 3. It's too bricky. Like, playing it at 2 is fine. Giving your opponent 2 to 3 tokens is also really scary in Link format, because you know they're just going to be able to turn that into a Link 3, which is not fun. But if you have the burn cards already, it's decent. I'm honestly considering dropping it down to 1 or even cutting it entirely. I'm just not entirely sure what I'd put in there. Maybe some Honest. That would be a pretty cool little tech to play a couple Honest. But yeah, it's still a good card. It's just kind of, you have to play it a little more trickier than you normally would. 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence. It's just an amazing trap card. Effect Failure that's searchable. Yes, please. Can I have more? Thank you very much. Now, on to the extra deck. Now, Chain Burn extra deck usually doesn't matter, like at all. But, in this case, it kind of does, because in Modern, day Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think you can properly play unless you're using a bunch of links, or at least some link boss monsters, because let's be real, that's what's competitive right now, that's what's meta, and even Chain Burn isn't exempt from this rule. So here's my extra deck. I play one Kagari, one Shizuku, and one Hayata. Obviously, this is just for the entire Sky Striker package. Kagari to add the Sky Striker card back to your hand. Shizuku to add a Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand, engage. And then Hayata to inflict direct battle damage. And then for our rest of our extra deck, we have one Link Karibo. We can use Absolute King Backjack for this, which is kind of a weird one, because it means that you're just going to have to hope that on the top of your deck is a normal trap when you activate King Backjack's effect in the graveyard, but it's still a really good card. And you're probably not going to go into it too much, honestly, because you don't really have a need to. But if you don't have any threatening roars and you're looking at a very scary field, it's not a bad option. Then we play one copy of Bloody Mary. It gains you some life points if you summon a Trickstar to one of its zones. And then you can discard a Trickstar, both players draw a card. But if your life points are at least 2,000 higher, you can draw 2 cards, which is really good. Drawing is amazing. And then we also play a couple Nightmares. We play Phoenix, Cerberus, spells, and monsters. Obviously, just to deal with them, we're never going to probably get to use their draw effect, which does kind of suck, but what are you going to do about it? We play one copy of Hipposhingen, because we oftentimes are just going to have 2 Trickstars in the field. Being able to go into a 1900 beater in your main phase 2 after attacking isn't that bad. Yeah. Then we play one copy of Unicorn. You're just going to be linking up. Now, it kind of seems ridiculous that you're going to get to link 4s, which it kind of is, but if you're going to have drones, and if you can keep climbing and keep surviving turns, then it's not that crazy. But this is shuffle removal. Trisbania is kind of interesting. If you can get to Trisbania, I recommend it because it's kind of amazing. So if a monster is special summoned to a zone that he points to, you can banish as many of those monsters as possible. Also, as many spells or traps on the field. And if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each of their cards banished, which is pretty dang good, considering that most people are going to be having at least like 6 cards on the field. It's modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! So we'll be dealing like 3,000 damage. Trisbania can honestly be a game ender. Really try going into this if you can. Then we play one Decode Talker. If you can't go into Trisbania for some reason, go into Decode Talker. It's not a bad beater. We play Griffin to reset our card destruction or our Monster Reborn. I suppose you could also use it to set your drones or engage back, but I wouldn't really want to do that. We play one Topologic Bomber Dragon, also because it has destruction effect and being able to inflict damage to your opponent, just keeping with the burn theme. And then we have Borreload and Boral Sword, just because they're badass boss monsters. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time, and as always, have a roaring good day.